This is Andrew S. Baker from Brainwave Consulting Company, and you're listening to the Living Sugar-Free Lifestyle Show with Andrea in the morning.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Welcome to the Living Sugar Free Lifestyle Show, Andrea in the morning. I am the host, Andrea Raquel, and I can't even believe that I'm finally here speaking to you. I'm so very excited. I am going to just take a second here just to share the talk because this is my very first time doing this. So, of course, no one knows that I'm here. I did just do a live on TikTok, and I probably have, I think, about 60,700 um, followers on TikTok, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that many people are always watching or listening. So, the time scale, and they really say that my most optimal time is 7 p.m. Eastern, and I'm not really on that time anymore. So I'm adjusting my times and getting to know what's best. But now that I'm on Wisdom, I will probably be doing a regular talk. I'm just going to try to figure out what time of day it needs to be, and still just kind of deciding if it's going to be a daily thing or certain days of the week. I have recently gotten to my regular Wednesday show, and I really love that. That's something I've done for a really long time, but consistently recently. And so the Andrea in the morning show is something that I really enjoy, but I haven't done in a while. So I've been waiting to get back to this. So very excited, but still, y'all, I can't really promise that I'm going to do it, 5 days a week yet. Definitely won't be 7 days a week, but I'm thinking about, and even if I don't, I will probably maybe start off with like 2 or 3 and maybe, work my way up to that. But we'll see. So I wanted to come on today because on Wednesday will be my first podcast recording that I'm doing on Wisdom. Yay! I'm so excited. And I will be interviewing Dr. Lisa Brewer and Kismet. Hello, Dr. Lisa is on here as well, and she's just so amazing. I actually didn't even meet her on the Wisdom app, but we are going to be collaborating, and she's so amazing. I think so highly of her. So I'm very excited that my very first talk, well, this is my first talk technically, but my first interview is going to be this coming Wednesday the 5th at 4:20 p.m. Eastern. Excuse me, 4:20 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's new for me. I'm used to being on East Coast time, so pardon me. But 4:20 Pacific Standard Time, this coming Wednesday, the 5th, I will be speaking with Dr. Lisa Brewer. And if you want to find out more about her ahead of time, like I said, she's on here. But also, too, if we're connected on social media, you can see recently where I shared a couple of her posts and her talks. And so you can go check out, what she talks about and see what we're going to be sharing. And then just a little heads up, for those of y'all who jumped in here to see, oh, Andrea's finally doing her show. I love you guys. I'm going to do some shout outs in a second. I appreciate you, but I'm going to give an early heads up that I'm going to be hosting a class series with Dr. Lisa Brewer on the 11th, 12th, and 13th. And everybody who joins that class with me is going to get another class of hers for free. And it's going to be a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, if you were on TikTok with me and we just finished talking about how do you get your continuing education and your leadership and your spiritual development on an ongoing basis, if you got here, if you got where you are right now from like a class or a certification. Like if you're part, so many people were part of organizations, and part of their growth has been like coming away from groups of people, or they found out that they weren't really who they thought they were, or they ended up surpassing them and growing past the level of the person who taught them. And so we end up finding ourselves sometimes just continuously being the smartest person in the room. Not on this app, of course, but in your life, sometimes everybody doesn't necessarily have their life set up in a way where, they're only surrounded with people that are vibrating at the same frequency, and that everything that they say is resonating. Many people are working jobs and, have family members, and, situations could be a child or a parent, where they're constantly, um, I don't want to say fighting for, because I know that we are all working to not be fighting, to just be. But sometimes it can feel like you're fighting to maintain your beliefs, right? You could be very devout, but you find yourself in situations where it's a constant pull, a constant tug of war, and you're having to constantly remind yourself, right? Because of the questions you may get, or people. It's interesting always the way that it's not good enough to just let you be in joy and be happy, or be believing in whatever it is you believe in. For some reason, people have to challenge that, and so at every level, it's a different lesson, right? It's a different type of growth that we have to get at every stage. And so oftentimes we have to learn these lessons at various stages. We learn how to um, not be so caught up in what others think, right? Because it doesn't necessarily always align with what's acceptable, or what's comfortable to others around you. I just had a friend today say that her her growth was challenging to someone else, right? And so that there's pain in that. And so I just want to give a couple of shout outs, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I don't know necessarily how this works, and I'm still learning wisdom, but I believe I have Reslin, Sonia, thank you so much for joining me. Dennis, Jesse, I appreciate you. Kiana, Mary, thank you so much. Ralph, hey Raymond, thank you so much, Ben, for stopping by. And Cicely, thank you, Matthew, Marcy, and Terry. I appreciate you guys so much for stopping through. So yeah, again, this is my very first wisdom talk. This is my premiere episode, if you will. So what I'll be doing is I will be coming on here on Mondays and Wednesdays for sure, right? So I will do my live behind the scenes on TikTok, where I have a video and a chat box if you're not familiar with TikTok, but people don't necessarily aren't able to come on stage on that platform. So I will be encouraging my followers there to come and participate with our talks over here, because I feel like wisdom is a really, really positive solution um, for this age, and for what is going on in our world. So I will be encouraging, a lot of people from my audience to join us, because I do feel like this is an amazing, amazing tool. So I'm talking about, I put spirituality and social media in the keywords, which is kind of like I don't know, a combination. I don't know, it might sound like a weird combination, but it's a crossroads that we come to whether we want to or not on social media. And so I thought that it was a good launching point for my very first talk, to share where I'm coming from, and just to share my journey up to now, that is, share my story and my testimony. And, even if you're listening after the fact, if you're listening to the recording still, I appreciate you. If you're not listening live and you want to send me any questions or connections, feel free to do that here or on Instagram or any of the other socially places. And I will respond at my earliest convenience, as quick as I can get to it. Of course, I see it sooner on some apps than I do on others. Um, but I am going to be focusing mainly solely on wisdom because I just really, really like it. And it is a great tool for podcasters. And I have found, I tried. Okay, so Clubhouse, when Clubhouse came out, I couldn't get on Clubhouse because I didn't have a iPhone, right? When Clubhouse first came out, it didn't uh it didn't it only worked for iPhone. Android people couldn't use it. And so then Spotify bought Green Room. And for those of you who maybe are not familiar with that, it's just like Clubhouse, um, but it's owned by Spotify. And so people who podcast on Spotify and on, Apple, iTunes, and all these different podcast platforms, the idea was that they could use um, Green Room to record their podcast and easily just edit it on Anchor or whatever other tool that they use. And then to build up influencers, to be able to be verified on that app and eventually to lead to Spotify. But to be quite frank, it seems like they are struggling in that process. They have a artist uh, process, if you will, a whole dedicated thing to help artists manage their music and manage their profiles and engage with their fans. But they really don't have anything like that for the podcasters. Okay, so bear with me, you all. I'm about to see how this app works. I'm getting to know this app, and I have to try a few different things or else I'm never going to be able to work it. So right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to see if I want to share this other places, am I going to get kicked off? Because that's how it works on TikTok. If you swipe the wrong place, then you end up pausing your live stream. So it didn't. So I'm going to see if I can. Yep, it's working. Bear with me one moment. So it's great once you get all this stuff going, and then you have moderators, and then you can have people moderating for you. But when you first start off and you're doing it yourself, you got to be your own moderator and share. And of course, I usually try to share my stuff ahead of time, but again, this is my test episode. So I'm just going to have fun and play around with it. And if you're new to wisdom as well, come on up here and share your experience and let's figure it out together, because we have to be willing to try stuff and get it wrong and make mistakes. Otherwise, we'll never learn, right? Okay. I already posted it on Twitter and now I'm posting it on Facebook. Okay. So I love that about this app. I love that you can share and you don't have to worry about getting kicked out of the app, because that's an issue with a lot of the other ones. I don't necessarily know about Clubhouse because, like I said, I didn't really use it all that much, but I'm certain about the others. TikTok and Green Room definitely were a struggle to try to share when you were live. Okay. So normally I will be recording my podcast here, and then I will be And then I will be recording them, or uploading them, should I say, to my podcast. So you can always listen to the archives. I know you can listen to the archives on here as well. But we'll be doing edited interviews and all that kind of stuff that you'll be able to also listen to on Spotify. And then of course with certain topics, I might have like a little bit of video footage, for example, from Dr. Lisa, and I might edit that together, and that might be on Spotify or YouTube. So I'll try to mix it up where it's just not the same, same across all of the platforms. I want to be able to like provide additional value and build on content. So you might have heard an interview, on here, and then maybe when you go to YouTube or TikTok, you might see another behind the scenes aspect of it or whatever. So we are also going to be doing some open discussions on here. So if you would like to come up, definitely just ask to join the stage. I don't really know how this works per se, because congrats, you just received your first. Oh, there it is. There it is. Hold on. How do I accept it? Hold on. I'm coming. Does it? Oh, hold on. I got to get back to that screen. Ah, this is so cute. I love it. I love, 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 love this app. Hold on. Let's see. I'm trying. What do I click on? What do I click on? It's not doing anything. I remember hearing Kathy say somebody had to leave and come back or something. I'm clicking. Ah, there it is. Wait, it says choose your guest will have 10 minutes. Do I just click on that? Click on the check. There it is. Yay. Hi, Terry. Welcome to my stage. Thank you so much for joining me and stopping by. I appreciate you.
No problem. Yeah, it's quite self-intuitive, but it took me a while to get used to bringing up guests. And you can change the time. Well, I couldn't until I had an update, but now I can change the time. So I thought it was always 10 minutes, but when I had an update, well, I reinstalled the app actually, and there was an update a few days before that, and then I can change the time 10, 15, half an hour, an hour.
Oh, wonderful. That's good to know. Thank you.
Do it in the settings. You
Uh,
do it in the
when when
yeah.
you are setting it up?
Well, you can go into the settings at any time, and it gives you the option how long you want your guest to talk for. I
God,
think you can change it while you're doing a talk as well. Just go into the settings, but yeah, you soon get used to it.
I
It's
love
pretty
it.
full.
Yeah, it's very intuitive, which kind of like, you're looking for it to be hard and you're like, oh, it's right there in front of me.
Tell you something, it's one of the easiest apps to actually join. You don't need to give your life story and your shoe size and all that sort of thing.
Your firstborn child, exactly.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So, Terry, how did you come to wisdom? Oh, I see the time thingy. How did you come to wisdom, and like what, like how are you using it? Has it made life easier in social media for you, and what's your take on that?
Well, I don't use social media really, but
I remember hearing you say that. You meant not at all, at all.
well, no, I've started using my old Instagram account recently to connect with some of my wisdomer friends. Um, I do have a Twitter account which I haven't used for 2 years. Still got a few thousand followers on it, but I don't really want to go back to Twitter, and I gave up using Facebook years ago. I didn't even think anybody still used it, to be honest with you. But there you go.
Do you know what I
Um,
think? I think that every time a new app comes out and people go, oh, Instagram, it's so much better than Facebook. And then they realize it's just Facebook when they bought it. Or, oh,
yeah,
TikTok, it's so much better than Facebook. And then they realize that social is social. And then they end up going back to Facebook.
Yeah, look, you can drive yourself nuts. There's
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first time I got a smartphone, yeah, I was a little bit scrolling addicted. I joined Twitter in 2010, and yeah, I thought, oh, this is great. You know, I was following all these astronomy things, and but then a few years ago, well, about 5 years ago, it started getting a little bit toxic and full of people arguing amongst themselves all the time, and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, and especially when COVID came along, I thought, right, that's it. I'm not going back on it. Although, ironically, a lot of people might have been on it more than ever during COVID. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, there's only so many hours in a day. I was saying this to Gracie the other day. You know, how can
Exactly.
you listen? If you've got a day job or a career, there's only so many hours in a day. How can you be on all these different podcasts, been on TikTok, Twitter, Wisdom? You know, Wisdom takes up a lot of my time. So I'd rather dedicate my time and effort to Wisdom than other things.
We literally just finished having that exact conversation. I'm doing my behind the scenes for an hour on TikTok before I come over here. That's my plan. I'm going to record my podcast here and I'll do my behind the scenes, there. So we're talking about how, it's shocking now that there's generations of people, coming behind us who haven't even been on social media as long and who weren't even old enough, right, to go through the life experiences when they got on there, and
Exactly.
and the way that they get sucked in and allow this world to begin to dictate their worth and their value the same way we all had to learn in elementary school and junior high school. It's like this artificial social environment over again to learn how to find balance in the world and not let the world
Yeah.
dictate, right, your value and your worth.
Well, anybody over 40-ish, you know, remembers a time before TikTok and wisdom, Twitter. Not so much wisdom. But, oh, what's going on there? My time ran out.
Is it? It's counting 4.55, it looks like.
Am I still here?
Yes, you are.
Oh, it just come up. Thanks for being a guest. Oh well, I can't see myself. I can just see a little blank figure. But anyway, I'll carry on. What
I
was I
think we're
saying?
glitching a little. I think we're glitching a little because my numbers went
Yeah.
away. You were saying how anybody over 40 remembers before we had social media.
Yeah, that's right. And so a lot of us had a time to become a rounded human being before being forced to have social anxiety for
Mm-hmm.
feeling we're not living having as much fun as other people
Mm-hmm.
and getting depressed and even committing suicide and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you would say I'm bored to your parents and they would make you go outside and play with a stick or find whatever other way you needed to entertain yourself, or when you weren't the popular kid or not necessarily people didn't like you and you really just had to learn how to get over that and deal with it, whereas now it's really really bombarding them and like really in their faces. And what you said I think is so important. There's only 24 hours in a day, so when do you have time to recover from that and do your self work or study or whatever if you're just always on it?
It's encouraged an instant gratification society, unfortunately.
And it's also it's like a substitute or a band-aid, right? Because even though we're saying our generation, guess what it used to be before we had internet and social media? The substitute or the band-aid fix would be television. People would I've never been a big television person. I've graduated to, just enjoying movies, but you know, hours and hours and hours of television is a substitute for a lot of people, because then they come away from that and then the issues are bombarded and compiled and you have less time now to deal with them than you did. But that escape into that movie allowed you to be able to kind of like be in a fantasy world, I think, for a period of time.
Yeah, and then not to mention video games and things like that.
Yes.
That people get
Yes.
obsessed. you know?
Yes. Yeah. I really like that you brought that up. I put the tags of spirituality and social media, and I just really was hoping that some of my friends would come and join and share your experience. I'm so excited about all the people that I've met on here, and just really the whole vibe, of all of the collective minds that are just really just trying to learn and grow and be the change at the same time. So I really appreciate you stopping by and sharing.
Well, a lot of us on Wisdom are pioneers of a new earth, baby.
Yes, 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 yes. And I would love it if you would join my lineup. I'm going to be doing, like, for the first 2 months, I'm just going to be doing interviews after today. And so if you are open to that, I've heard you talk on multiple other people's shows, and I'd love to have you come on and just for 30 minutes to an hour share your story and your wisdom. That would be awesome.
Well, on Wisdom,
Yes.
okay, as long as it's time difference, because I'm in the UK, don't forget. So if it's 3 a.m. in the morning, it's probably not a good time for me
What
over
time is
here.
it there right now?
It's nearly 9:20 p.m. in the evening.
Oh, I
Yeah.
will keep that in mind. So, like around noon, it's 1 o'clock right now. So, like around noon, my time would be 8 p.m.
Yeah.
your
Well, the
time,
trouble
right?
is, Andrea, I have a day job as well. So,
Oh, okay. Well, guess what? I'm not going to apply any pressure. I'm going to send you a note and just remind you. And then at your convenience, you'll let me know when you can do it.
if it's around about this time in the evening UK, it should be okay for me, hopefully. But you can always ask, you know.
Excellent. Excellent. I will add you on there and shoot you a note. Thank you so much, Terry. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Okay, I
And you're
will.
welcome on my stage anytime.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Bye bye.
I can't see who else we have here, you guys. It looks like Terry's not even here, and I know he was because I was talking to him. So if you're in here, I see some people have stopped by, but I know a lot of people are on right now, and it's hard for us to always, come on each other's lives. But hey, Lisa. Hey, Daquan. Hey, Kindling the Heart Fire. I appreciate you. If you want to stop by the stage, you're more than welcome. We've got Terry's been up here sharing his wisdom, and I appreciate it so much. We're talking about spirituality and social media. I know that those two things are kind of a weird, right, thing for me to combine and mash up. But Terry just went automatically right in because, like, how do you balance, right? How do you balance when you're like trying to walk in this on this enlightened path, right? As they say, it's not a journey. We're all enlightened. We're all doing this enlightenment journey thing. It's not about a destination. But you're trying to do this, but you're being bombarded at every turn with, right, noise, chaos, distractions. And depending on what your life situation is, you might be in a situation where you don't feel like you can break away from that chaos, right? So, how can we find different ways and different methods to manage, right, our own self traumas, triggers, right? Conflicts, frustrations, all that kind of stuff, right? It's different for everybody. It presents differently for everybody. And so all I'm trying to do is just give a little bit of insight and perspective on where we can begin. Because if we have a place to begin, then we can grow from there. But some people have never even learned how to, um, manage their own traumas and their own triggers. Some people have never learned that and they don't know, they have no idea what to do. And so they're walking around out here feeling, frustrated or unworthy or, just broken and confused. And sometimes we get ahead in these conversations, right? We're talking about spirituality sometimes and growth in a world where everyone hasn't had access to the same information or learning or opportunities as we have. So we're leaving people behind in the conversation. So I decided that on this very first episode, where I don't have a guest and I don't have a particular schedule, and it was really, really something I decided to do kind of, that I really wanted to kind of set a precedent for where we're going. I do have podcasts across multiple platforms, and I do have other avenues of support. But this is going to be the main way to have one-on-one talk with Sugar Free Coach, right? I don't do one-on-one coaching or therapy. So I'm dedicating my one-on-one advising, coaching, and any type of time like that to Wisdom, because I love the Wisdom app. I believe in it. And whenever I do something new, I believe in going all in and giving it 100% effort, because that's the only way I can determine whether it's a good fit for me or not, or whether it's adding value, right? So I can't determine that if I don't go all in. So for a period of time, I am going to do one-on-one. Don't ignore the elephant in the room. That is what my day at a glance is telling me. So I'm going to do my one-on-one talks, not just interviews, but also too advising sessions, Living Sugar Free Chat. So we'll be having some of my existing Living Sugar Free sweethearts will be joining us. Sometimes it takes people a while to catch on. A lot of stuff's going on in life. So I'm just going to be hanging out on here, you guys. I might be on here talking to myself on some days, because that's what we have to do, you know. And that's okay. So I'm gonna always talk for one as I would for 1,000, but y'all, I don't see so good. So sometimes I might miss that you're hanging out in the audience, and I'm also too just now really learning wisdom, and I'm learning it on a new device. So, big announcement, I just got my new phone. If I have been on live with you, then you probably know that I could not do my talks because I needed to upgrade my device, because my Galaxy Note 8 is obsolete. So many of the new technologies and features across apps I am unable to use, and many of these types of apps don't work with that device. So I've been planning to upgrade, and I have literally never, ever, ever, ever upgraded my technology for the sake of social media or an app or anything like that. You know, of course, I buy new equipment for my podcast, you know what I mean? But like upgrading my equipment just so I can get on Clubhouse, I was like, I will never. Like, I felt like it was, a slap in the face, you know? And I know some apps come out on, Apple first, because it's just a necessity. But for a long period of time, and people kept asking me if I would join it, and I couldn't, and I felt some type of way. And so when Green Room came out, I joined Green Room over Clubhouse. But Green Room was very, 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 very glitchy. And so it was very difficult to just get your podcast done. And it just was always, the rug was always being snatched out from under us. So that was through necessity that I really stopped doing it over there. And plus, there is a monetization piece. And I'm always a person that's gonna bring everybody. If this is what I'm doing and this is what I believe in, I'm sharing it with everybody. And so that's what I do. And so if they say there's a monetization piece, and then we're checking to see how it works, and they weren't paying out the money over there, and we had accumulated, a pretty good network over there, and we're doing hours and hours of shows, and people started, because I'm not even looking at mine, but all the people I invited are looking at theirs like, where's my money? And I'm like, I don't know, let me go check. And that's when I found out that the way that they do their payouts is kind of shady. So I couldn't condone that, and I couldn't continue to invite people there and tell people about it, because they weren't doing it right. So I was very excited when I got the invite to come to Wisdom, because I'm a radio person. I've been a radio person. I went to school for broadcast journalism. I've talked to some people on here, and I've shared my story a little bit, but I am an Army veteran, and I went to the Defense Information School, which is the Army Broadcast Journalism School, and I was the first female voice of the 3rd United States Infantry. So my training is actually in broadcasting and public affairs. And I was trained to do radio, television, news anchor, production editing, but also to like camera equipment, all that kind of stuff. But my favorite is radio and DJing. Like, I really prefer radio to television, but I like that too. I just don't want to do it all the time. So doing regular podcasts is it's so much more comfortable, and it's more comfortable for your guests, if you're doing it on an audio only platform. So I was very excited when I got the invite to come here, and then I was even more excited. It just worked out perfectly that I wasn't able to produce any shows or do any talks, because it forced me to, get to know everybody on here as I was able and as I had time, and as I was able to even have the Wisdom app on my phone. Because if you've been around technology for a while with all this new stuff, you know what it's like to get phased out of a device. And after a while, the device is like a brick, right? And so you have to keep deleting stuff off of your phone to put, whatever you're using on there, and you're constantly losing memory. So it was, it was more than a notion. But it was a good little process to go through while I was in this kind of waiting, holding pattern, allowing some things to unfold, understanding or overstanding or understanding some additional things, and allowing some collaborations to develop that I didn't even expect. So I'm very excited. I have a magazine that's going to be mailed out in November. I'm going to be doing this class series with Dr. Lisa Brewer, who's on here. If you don't know her, go find her. She's awesome. And I'll be interviewing her on Wednesday. We'll be talking more about the class series that we're going to be doing. I've got merch. I have my book is in hard copy now. And I'm going to be launching a story series. I met my twin flame, and I'm getting married. We bought a house during a time period where everybody was saying that it was impossible to buy a house. So there has been a lot going on, and it's all like awesome. And just like everybody else, I'm trying to make sense of everything and always be able to share it, as a teachable moment, or even just as a love, conveying it in love as an experience, that can benefit someone else. And so that's what this is all about for me. And so I look forward to sharing with you all. I look forward to having you all participate in the talks. Probably the platform that I'll do when I'm interviewing someone is that I'll have I'll have them up here. I'll interview them. And then if they have time to stay and take questions, then we'll do that. And if not, after they leave, then we'll continue the discussion as people come up. Sometimes people will be able to stay for 30. Sometimes they'll do the whole hour. But it's not going to be so rigid and strict. So as I said, hopefully I'll be having a talk with Terry. And if you have an amazing brand to share, or experience here on the Wisdom app, or as you've been growing on your journey and you want to come up and talk, definitely come up and share with us. With the Living Sugar-Free Sweethearts, I'm so happy to see this little purple dally thing going around my face right now. I don't know what to do. And I don't have a topic because this is my premiere episode. And so I am literally just winging it and playing around with the app as I'm doing this and checking out to see who's here and getting to know more of my friends. I know that there are people who show up to present, and then there are people who show up to contribute and engage and support. And then there are people who just show up to listen. And I am appreciative of all and every form of engagement and support. You don't have to do it a certain kind of way. If you're on my social media, sometimes on TikTok, people are like, oh, if you don't leave a comment and don't watch the whole video, then don't click like or anything like that. Or, people just watching and not clicking like, that can be taken as a negative thing. But I just want y'all to know I don't feel that way. Sometimes people don't realize that it can be a accessibility issue on social media when people don't leave long comments, they just leave an emoji. I'm very vocal about being appreciative of that as well, because everybody is not verbal, right? And I don't mean that some people are deaf, because that too, some people are deaf. right? But some people are nonverbal, meaning that even though we're dealing with text and typing and you don't have to talk, they don't have words. And so essentially, if we're getting so caught up in the stress that the algorithm is putting us under, where you want everybody to engage a certain kind of way so that the algorithm doesn't penalize you, ultimately we end up penalizing those people and being ableist by putting people into a box and saying that if they don't engage in a certain kind of way, then we don't value and appreciate their engagement. So I want to make it clear that I'm not doing that. So be yourself and be comfortable. And if you have a question, by all means, please ask. There are no dumb questions. And if you have a topic that you'd like to talk about because you heard me, discussing something and you want me to elaborate on that subject, or, there's something that you saw somewhere and you want me to go in depth about it, by all means, shoot me a note and let me know. I do take requests. um, oh gosh, what else? What else? What else? Okay, I guess I could tell you guys a little bit about me because I have been on here a few times on other stages and shared my story in a nutshell, right? I did it one day and I think I must have did it in like 2 or 3 minutes. And everybody's like, "Ooh, girl, you can talk fast." And I was like, I'm shocked because normally I'm not that good at sharing it in such a nutshell, right? So that shows that I've been working on my keynote, y'all. Because you can't not tell the story, right? So I like to show up somewhere and give a talk about whatever the talk is about. And, as kind of just a logical, by the books, by the numbers, not as social, emotional type of person, I tend to just give the facts, right? But a marketing principle from way back in the day, a sales tactic, they tell you that facts tell, stories sell. So it's always best if you can share the story and, really, really give people an opportunity to feel, the emotion and the compassion or the empathy or whatever experience of feelings that human beings have when they hear stories about other people's experiences, right? So I try to be conscious of that and share, the story. And share it as a story because I am a storyteller and a writer. But, I could tell a good story all day long. But when it comes to telling my story, I might have been in the past more prone to just get to the meat and go through the story and get the facts out. But when you're sharing a story for the sake of allowing others to walk in your shoes or to experience what you experience, or to maybe even identify, right? Because maybe they're going through something similar. You can't just give them, the facts and the details and the dates. You have to tell them about the part where your feelings were hurt. You have to tell them about the part, that you cried, that you laid on the couch for 3 days and cried about it before you got over it, right? Because, people see me and they go, "Oh, you're so resilient. You're so strong." And I'm like, you don't think I didn't cry on the couch for 3 days first, though, Um, telling the story authentically, I think, is the key towards us sharing our experiences in a way that can help others, as opposed to always just telling other people what they should and shouldn't be doing. That's a common theme that I've had the pleasure of coming across a few times on here. And I don't know who to give credit for. I don't know if it's Lois or who it is, but the phrase stop shooting all over yourself, I loved it. It was so brilliant because always saying that we should strike the word should, right? We should. That's the only should we should do, is that we should strike the word should from our vocabulary, whether we're talking about ourselves or whether we're talking about others, but especially when we're advising other people, because it's just irresponsible. It really is. Oftentimes we don't have enough information to really, really, really give an opinion about a situation, let alone advice. I mean, we can give advice, And I pride myself on being somebody who can give unbiased advice. But even though I can give unbiased advice, as a person who really, really is more on the left brain, logical, non emotional side of the spectrum, I really am very good at giving unbiased advice. But even in those situations, I still have to caution and ask myself, like, just because it's unbiased doesn't mean it's good advice for that person in that situation. And if I don't really have all the information, am I really even in a qualified position to even give an estimate as to what should or shouldn't be done? And even if I have all the information to give a educated guess, does that mean it's right for that person? You see, because if our life situations all are for a purpose and for a reason and meant to teach us something and take us where we're going, or just for the sake of experiencing it so that we can know, if that's the case, and even the things that we went through that weren't so pleasant are for a purpose, then that means that when a person is standing in front of us with a situation and they don't know whether to choose point A or point B, and we say choose B, that's the best guess, that's the most logical answer in the situation. Well, what if in that moment where they were supposed to be going was to go learn something, not to be saved from the lesson? You see, we might be trying to save them from the lesson. You've been in situations where your kid or a mentee or an employee or some person that you're responsible for advising. And when I say responsible, I mean they're in your camp, they're in your tribe, they're somebody that looks up to you and asks you your opinion, right? And you're in that situation and you see they're heading towards a brick wall and you really want to save them from that brick wall because you love them and you care about them. That's your kid or whoever, and you don't want to see them, you don't want to see them make the same mistakes you made, or maybe you didn't make mistakes and you know better, but for whatever reason you want to save them from their hard knocks and their lessons that you went through to become who you are. Now think about that for a minute. If you went through a series of lessons and hard knocks to become who you are, and you save other people from those lessons, how are they going to become, if you're working on being the best version of yourself, how is everybody else going to become the best version of their self if we're saving all of them from learning, right? All of my lessons and my experience and my wisdom and everything I've went through, if it's for the purposes of just telling other people how to avoid it, then am I really encouraging them or helping them to grow and develop at their highest level? Or am I just trying to keep them underneath my highest level? Like I've achieved this higher level of thinking or development, but I don't want anybody else to get past me. So I only want them to be able to reason and think and make decisions underneath we have to check ourselves. Sometimes that ego can get us going, and in the name of trying to help people and being a good person and protecting people and saving people from bad experiences, what we're really doing is controlling.
This is Denise Geritano from SD Management and Consulting. You're listening to the Living Sugar Free Lifestyle Show with Andrea in the morning.
And at every level we have a new lesson to learn. Just because you've been on a enlightenment journey or a spiritual path or mentoring or ministering or healing or whatever it is, your version of um, being the change, that's what I call it. You've been doing it for 20 years or 30 or your whole life. You're older than me. You're 60, 70. It doesn't even matter. At every level, we have new lessons to learn. And if you are a mentor, leader person, chances are you might not have a whole bunch of people around you that are even qualified to give you advice, right? You're the person giving everybody advice all the time. And so what can happen is you can become an echo chamber. And y'all, this is real. Sometimes your stories can start sounding more entertaining than they really are. Sometimes your profound wisdom can start sounding more profound than what it really is. Sometimes your enlightened truths can start sounding more enlightened than what they really are, right? Because you've been on this journey for 10 years. 10 years ago, the stuff that you were learning was rocket science. It was, nobody was talking about it. It was a secret. It was still being kept from people and, all this kind of stuff. It was considered conspiracy theory at the time, right? But you've been doing it for 10 years, and because you don't bother to refresh or because of the pain that we go through, sometimes we are unwilling to open ourselves up to the possibility that somebody else might have something that we can learn from, right? That their experience might teach us something, right? We close ourselves off to that because we feel like we are on this enlightened, postmodern, green movement, whatever you want to call it. If you're familiar with Ken Wilber, his integrative method is one of my favorite social outlines. But if you're past the traditional phase, you feel like you have arrived. Whether you're at postmodern, whether you're at green and light, whatever it is, you feel like you've arrived. You feel like you are working and walking on this enlightenment path. And poor people who are not even doing that. It's a common thing. And I'm not implying anybody listening, you might not be the one. But if you're not the one, then guess what? Other people around you are, and you're going to have to deal with this. You're going to have to help people through this. And if you don't, it's going to end up, snatching the rug out from under you. Because there are people, just because we have things in common, it doesn't mean we're all in agreement. You see, and we don't all have to be in agreement. But when you're going to partner with people and collaborate with people or even have public discussions with people, if you're not going to be in agreement, you have to at least have agreed upon social contracts where you're not here just to cause additional trauma and pain, right? That's why we have safe spaces we talk about, right? And so I know that this is a different place, but I have made the mistake in the past of walking in the door overly humble, right? And saying, oh, la, 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 I'm just happy to be here and just part of being, whatever is already going on. And I always end up having to allow me to reintroduce myself because I'm sorry that I didn't tell y'all this up front. Here's the way that I think and the way that I operate, because otherwise people see me and they think, oh my gosh, she's so wonderful. I want to be her friend. And then when we get behind closed doors and they start saying things that are very exclusionary and that lack integrity, they get upset because they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you was such a good person. I thought you was such a nice person. I was like, I'm a genuine person. That I don't imply kindness or niceness or any of that, because to me, the definitions of those things that we hold on to in this world, they're questionable. Yeah. So I promise you I'm going to be genuine. I don't promise you that you're going to like everything I say. I don't promise you that I'm going to be right all the time. I don't promise you that I might be speaking from a perspective that you can't even relate to, right? And I don't aim to, because I cannot be everything for everybody. I can't make everybody happy all the time. I can't please everybody. Everybody is not going to like me, and that is okay. I'm here to do my part in my lane for what I'm led to do, and that's it. And whatever that is good enough. And I think that eliminating the pressure off of ourselves of doing so much more, I think will help open up a lot of healing, right? Because even as we move from traditional chasing paper, chasing titles, chasing positions, corporate America, corporate ladder, even entrepreneurial winning and scaling and all these types of things, when we transcend that and realize, okay, when I woke up and realized that it's not all about my name and my title and the things I've accomplished, and that I needed to focus on healing and inner leveling up my energy, when I realized I needed to focus on those things so that I could just be and learn how to just accept myself as a divine being. And we say all of those things, and then the voices come, whether it be the media, social media, the marketers, the bill collectors, whoever, all of that comes. And then they take that feeling and twist it into, okay, well, if you have something that's so powerful and so, groundbreaking and life changing, and you're so passionate about helping people, then it's not right that you don't share it with the world. You have to share it with the world, because otherwise you're not really doing what it is you say you're called to do. You say that you're called to help people and change lives, but if you're not doing that, then now all of a sudden you have guilt on you. Now all of a sudden you're back to where you were before you left behind the corporate chase and the paper chase. Now you're back to that. They switched it on you. And now they have you believing that if you don't create this perfect brand, and you're not this hero, guru healer, and all of your life isn't perfect, and you're not getting paid $20,000 to speak on stage, and you're back to the imposter syndrome. It's a trick. And so I am reminding myself and reminding others that it's good enough. Whatever you woke up today and did, that's good enough. Whatever you were inspired to do, that's good enough. If you didn't get around to the things that you wanted to do, or you didn't have the money to do the things that they said you should be able to do, or if they didn't let you into the playground or on the stage, or you couldn't afford to be part of that meeting or that master class, or you didn't get accepted, or the group that runs the industry that you speak on still hasn't called yet, or the investors that you thought were going to invest so that you could finally do it on your own and not wait for all of that, it's good enough. What you've done up until now is good enough. You are good enough. You are valuable. It doesn't have anything to do with how many more people listen to us, how many more people follow us, it doesn't have anything to do with any of that. If you never do another thing, it's good enough. And start right there. If we start right there, then we can operate from a position of freedom versus a position of stress and lack and doubt and fear and guilt and all of that. And if I can't do anything else on my journey here, and as I'm embarking on this new series that we're doing, if I can't do anything else, I'm going to help everybody to see that the trick of the conflict that you experience on a daily basis is to continuously make you feel like you're not good enough, or to make you feel guilty about something. And if we can move past that, we can experience so much healing and so much joy in our lives. We can be free from the need to over justify ourselves and defend ourselves or try to prove ourselves to other people. We find ourselves sometimes, listen, in a world of marginalization and oppression and misogyny and homophobia and all that kind of stuff, for good reason. There's a lot of people in this world who are on edge, and who everything that they say out of their mouth, they feel like they need to justify themselves, because they're so used to people not listening to them and not wanting to hear what they have to say. And so you develop this defense mechanism, right? Because you have to continue to function, right? And so what ends up happening is you hear people attacking you when they're not. Oh, some people can't even hear what I'm saying because there are people in this world right now who are walking around gaslighting people about misogyny and racism and all kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean that what I'm saying isn't true. Both things can be true. There can be people in this world who gaslight you. And then there can also be times where someone was talking to you and you took offense to what they're saying, what they were saying when there was none. Both of those things can be true. Everybody is not out here with the same intentions. And so if we're walking around thinking that everybody has the same intentions, it's the indication of your mental wellness and your spiritual wellness. It's on the test that they give you. And that's what my doctoral program is in, by the way. Those programs and tests that they give you when you go to work and try to get a job, or when you go to therapy, these different personality tests. That's what industrial organizational psychology is about. It's about understanding the organizational impacts on people and testing people to see the impacts of it, but also to their ability to function in it, right? So I always give this example. When I was in banking, I would refer people to work at the bank, and there would be people who were very high in their current position, but they would go to the bank and they wouldn't be able to pass the bank manager test. Or there would be people who would be very low in their position, and then they do pass the bank manager test. There will be people who are high in their position who are like, I'm tired of being a manager. I'm tired of being a boss all the time. They just want to go take the teller position. Somebody who has management skill set and mindset can't pass the teller test. Most people don't realize this. You cannot pretend to be a lower leadership level than what you really are according to these tests. That's why they ask you 50 million questions. They ask them to you a bunch of different ways. A lot of those questions are repeat questions, just asked in different ways, because humans lie. Humans lie to themselves and they lie to each other. And especially when the pressure of a diagnosis or a label or a job position or any of that is involved, humans lie. Very few people are going to take a test to get a job and answer all the test answers truthfully, even though they know it's going to keep them from getting that job. You see, so we make these tests in such a way that you can't lie, because if you try to lie on the first 10 questions, by the time I get to 10 through 20, not only am I going to discover that you aren't really as qualified as you're pretending to be, or that you're overqualified from what you're pretending to be, but I'm also going to discover that you're dishonest because you tried to cheat my tests. This is how they set people up. Most people don't even realize that when they go when they go to get a job, you can't lie. You can't pretend to be more qualified than what you are. If it's for a major company and they give these tests, you can't do it. Okay. So with that said, this is why you can't go out here and think that you're going to go, oh, okay, I'm on this enlightenment journey and I've been learning all of this stuff and I understand and overstand some things, and I've been meditating and I got these downloads and I've been on my healing journey and all this kind of stuff. And then you're just going to go keep going and hanging around all of the friends that you used to hang around, or keep working the regular 9 to 5 job, or keep a bunch of staff members around you, or stay in the same relationship, or whatever the thing is, in an environment that's toxic or that's not growing, where the people aren't being supportive. You're not going to be able to do it. Either they're going to kick you to the curb, or you're going to like I've been in situations where I've gotten violently ill going places. I had it happen to me with a job, and I've had it happen to me with a church, where I was on my way there, dressed and on time, because that's how I roll, and I couldn't go. I had to pull over on the side of the road because I got violently ill. And that's happened to me like 3 times, not anymore, because I don't be in them situations, but back in the day, that happened to me 3 times in my life, where I knew by the second and third time, oh, that's what this is, because I don't get sick like that. I'm just pulling over on the side of the road, violently ill. I didn't eat anything that could give me food poisoning, you see. And sometimes, a lot of people, a lot of times, are going through similar situations like that. But instead of saying, oh, my higher self, my inner self is trying to tell me something, you just go to the doctor and get some meds and then go back to the toxic environment that caused that your inner self was trying to tell you that you didn't need to be in. This is why it's crucial for us to learn if we're not learning, okay? There's some people who are publicly doing their spiritual journey, and they know that where they came from, and they know that the old things they were taught weren't right. They know that it's not helping them. They know that it's causing them more fear and guilt than what they should really be under. But because of friends and family and titles and comfortability and all that kind of stuff, we're continuing to walk in the oppressive old ways that we've been taught, and we're not walking in our authentic self because we're afraid of what people are going to think about us. That's what I'm about to roll out in the next few weeks, and that's what I'm going to be talking about, because I'm just the one. I'll take one for the team. I'll be that for everybody. I have aunties and uncles who are all pastors and ministers. I'm ordained. You know, my family is, my granddaddy built one of the first churches, black churches in Charlottesville. Like, I've been meditating on this for a while and watching everything that's going on in the world, and how, if at all, I was going to talk about it. And I wasn't going to, because I don't believe in turning the fire hose on people. But then wisdom came, and the universe was like, oh, you're going to talk about it. And here's a place where you can talk about it, because you're not going to get on here and talk about banking. You're not going to get on here and talk about marketing. You're not going to get on here and talk about finance. You're not going to talk about technology. Why would you do that on the Wisdom app? That's not what this app is meant to do. Oh, doy, I guess you're going to talk about all of this spiritual, historic ancestry and all this stuff that you've been researching for the past 3 years, and really for the past 20 years. You're going to talk about it because everybody always wants to know how you're so resilient. Everybody always wants to know how you're still standing after all that stuff you went through. Everybody wants to know, how come you're being so positive, and why are you still being nice to those people over there and they were so nasty to you? Everybody always wants to ask me those questions. And it doesn't matter what environment I'm in. Like, when I go places, I'm thinking, okay, well, I finally arrived at a corporate level, or I finally arrived at a religious level. I finally arrived. I'm part of this club, or I'm finally at this meeting. And then I'm in a meeting and I'm still having to answer the same questions. I can either continue to pretend like I don't have some tools that can really help people, or I can be willing to talk about it and don't really care who gets mad about it. And I choose B. I don't have a whole lot of training with caring what people think. I don't have that luxury, because it has never mattered. It has never mattered for me how much time I spent caring about what people think of me. I could never figure out the formula to fit into a box or put on whatever mask I was supposed to put on, so that I could be just so whatever perfect little robot they wanted me to be, so that they could quote unquote like me, or so that I could fit in or be accepted. I never figured out that equation. So I learned very long time ago, very early on, that's a waste of time. It's a waste of time and energy. It causes illness. It causes depression, like all of that. So if I'm not ever going to be able to successfully fit in, if I'm not ever going to be able to successfully mask, then why should I spend any amount of energy doing that? I should probably just spend the energy being the best me that I could be. I'm just going to, whatever comes up, whatever whatever issues, whatever, life traumas and experiences, we deal with them as they come, because pretending is like impossible. It's like the definition of insanity. And I think that the more that we come to the realization and the truth of what we're dealing with, instead of just being like, oh, la, 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 who am I? It's love and light. And if we all deal in love, then everything will be okay. Meanwhile, somebody's over here kicking you in your teeth and you're letting them, because you're like, it's love and light. Like, if you identify your value and your worth, and you know that you are part of the one, the source, and you know that you have value and worth regardless of all these accomplishments and titles and degrees and certifications, companies we bought and sold, how much money we made, how great our children are, how big our houses, how nice our cars, etc., etc., etc. None of that matters, right? We did all of that. It served us. Whatever religions we were a part of, whatever philosophies, whatever we did up until now, it served us, right? But now it's time. Thank you, Kayla. Now it's time for us to be willing to shift. Like the whole world is shifting. The planets are shifting. Like the environment is shifting. Everything is shifting. And yeah, it looks like hellfire and brimstone around us. It do. It look like all hell is breaking loose. But if you have been on this journey for any amount of time, then you know all you need is a speck, a drop, like a second in the pool of the source, right? However you choose to get there right now, whether you choose to sit lotus for hours, whether you choose to do music, whether you choose to do dance. You guys, a lot of people don't even know that there's a bunch of different forms of yoga because we haven't been taught this stuff. A lot of people think that, oh, if I don't go to this certified place, if I don't go to this yoga class, if I don't sit in this type of meditation for this many hours and chant this mantra and say this many words and do this spell, then I'm not. That's the trick. It's the same trick from traditionalism. It's the same trick we've been brought up in. They're just shifting it now to the thing that we're told. We're like, oh, well, I'm going to focus on more spirituality. Okay, well, I got a pill to sell you for that too. And if you don't buy the pill I'm selling you, then you're not good enough. And so then we start on a whole nother journey, just like the one we've been on our whole entire lives, trying to figure out how to be worthy and how to be good enough on this spiritual track. Oh, do I have all the right words? Do I have the right certification? Am I being recognized by the right person? Is this person going to get ahead of me? Is their classes better than mine? Oh, you do Reiki and I do laying of hands. Oh, y'all, some of y'all ain't ready. You're a Christian and I'm a Buddhist. Oh, I'm agnostic. I'm anything that we can do to continue to be on this rat race wheel of confusion and not being good enough. Anything we can do. And be very, very careful, because if you are struggling at all right now, if you're not struggling, then maybe this is not for you. And y'all are probably the ones clicking the like bombs and amen to me, and thank y'all so much, because sometimes we are preaching to the choir. But I'm new on here, so I appreciate all y'all listening to me and just trying to dig in and find out what I'm all about. Y'all have no idea how much that means. Okay. But there are some people right now who seem like they have it all together. They got the title, they got the spouse, they got nice cars, they got money, and they even have spiritual position. So everything in their life makes other people think they have it all together, but it also makes them think that they're okay. But the sad part is, y'all, in this world, what is okay? Like, it's time out for just because I'm not having a mental breakdown that everybody says I'm okay. It's time out for just because I'm not in the hospital that I'm okay. Just because I'm not sobbing and snotting. Just because I'm not miserable and mad, I'm okay. Like, oh, that's not like, you're not happy. If you're not happy, if you're not doing what you want to be doing, if you're not living your truth and able to walk in freedom and authenticity and just be yourself, not the one that you pretended to be all these years so you could fit in. If you have not taken time to find out who that is, like, you need to do that. I don't care how many classes you've taught. I don't care how many certifications you have. Like, we are all going somewhere new, and it doesn't hurt to start over at every single level. I call it the DIY head extraction. It's on the internet. You can Google it. Every so often, I do a DIY head extraction. I suggest that other people do the same. It will quickly check you and make sure that you're handling your ego properly. And this is how we manage ourselves and check our egos and acknowledge the fact that we're fallible human beings and we're not the end all be all of everything, that we can't ever make a mistake or get it wrong or get carried away or get too comfortable and start acting snobby or like we're better than other people. That is like kind of like human nature, y'all. And a lot of times spiritual folk and change agents and social entrepreneurs don't think that they're capable of acting like that. But this is why this is my niche, because it's it's more common among us, you see. Just like people out here talking right now about how liberals like are the issue right now. Like a lot of liberals are focusing on the hate. Oh, this person is hateful. This person is prejudiced. That's all fine and well. If the person is wearing it across their forehead, the big red flag is across their forehead, we don't need to talk about them. We don't need to spend any energy talking about them. Don't worry. I'm not going to accidentally get in a truck with them. You don't have to worry about that. I didn't make it to 50 years old by not knowing how to avoid people who hate me. Yeah? But if you're not on that camp and you're in the camp of quote unquote allies, liberals, anti racists, or whatever, and yet every time I'm around you, I have to sift through microaggressions and defensiveness that we can't even have a conversation. I can't even be my genuine self, rising above oppression, owning my own stuff, and not letting the world make a victim out of me. I can't even do that because you're not doing your work. That's why I'm called to talk on these things. Even though they're uncomfortable, I don't care. I can't care. Even though some people aren't going to want to be my friend, even though there's some people that I've met that think very highly of me that are going to avoid me and not want to do podcasts with me or be interviewed by me because they're afraid that they're going to say the wrong thing and they're going to end up getting exposed. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help people grow past that. I'm here to help people see that even if you and I have a conversation, and whether you're a black male, a cisgender black male, or whether you're a cisgender white male, or whether you're LGBTQ, or whether you're a disabled in a different kind of way I am, or whatever it is, I'm here to help you see that even if you don't say all the right things all the time, that's not the end of the world. That's how we learn and grow from one another. And if you're not willing to say, to be genuine and authentic, right? And then be loving and empathetic, if the way that you said it may have caused harm or offense to a group of people, being willing to be open to learn about that. That's how we grow and change, not by being perfect and knowing how to say everything right all the time. I have a guest, Nerd Chat Box. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. All I see is dot, dot, dot up there. So I really didn't realize how many people were on here just a few minutes ago. Hi, how are you?
Okay, this.
Oh, wait.
Oh,
I'm
you
sorry. I had to
listening
turn
to me?
my volume up so I could hear you good. How you doing?
I'm good. Can you hear me good?
I can now. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi. So I was listening to what you were talking about, and I just kind of wanted your advice on
Okay.
something. So I'm in a new relationship, and I have a little bit of baggage from my last relationship. And as you were saying, like, how do we come off as like, what's the word? Come on, brain. Sorry, my train of thought just went out the window for a
No
second. But
worries. Take your
as
time.
you were saying, how to be authentic and how to say something without trying to be mean, how to say something without like offending the person. And like that's something I'm struggling with because right now, like me and my girlfriend, I just got out of a bad relationship and I'm dealing with custody battle with my kid and we're trying to learn how to connect to one another. So I'm just wondering, do you have anything or any advice that would help out with that?
So I don't know how long you've been on, and no worries either way. I just want for context, I wanted to reiterate something I said earlier
Mm,
that like I would have to I would have to be all knowing and omniscient for me to have the audacity to think that I could advise your situation. But what I can do is tell you about my personal experience and how I handle it, and maybe that can help you. You know what I'm saying?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So, a lot of people talk about behaviors, and I think that that's a huge mistake. As an aspie and a person who has had to navigate this world authentically, because that's all I know how to do. Okay, so people who are autistic and people who are ADHD, and especially some of my friends, they call it ADHD. They are
Sure, media.
masters. Is that you?
Yep.
Okay, you guys are brilliant masters at the masking thing. Okay, this is why you asked me that question that you're asking me.
Yeah.
My fiance and one of my very good friends will be likely to ask questions like that. So I'm experimenting. I hope you don't mind in what I'm about to say to you, but because I want you to give me feedback on how it makes you feel and if it sounds helpful to you or not, or if it sounds, challenging. Okay.
No problem. I will.
I think that it's so important for you guys, right? You guys who have this master skill set to stop relying on it. Even though you have this ability, I believe that it can be used in some very, very powerful ways, but it's being taken up with the masking, right? And so, even though it can sometimes mean the loss of relationships, it can mean waking up tomorrow and finding out the people we thought we were in love with aren't really who we thought they were. It is
Mm-hmm.
imperative that, especially if you believe the kind of stuff that we believe, that we talk about on this app, it is imperative that you make a commitment, that you start working towards yourself and your authenticity and whatever that higher intuitive voice is for you. Because I can't even say that, because your unique journey is yours, and the people you have to speak to and the people that you're an example for, it's not me, you see. But there is a voice in you for that. We were put here
Mm-hmm.
for a reason, you see.
Yes, we
And
were.
and so it's very important that I not give you any advice about how to behave or how to mask. It's very important that you be your 100% authentic self. Now, I realize we have traumas. I realize we have some behaviors that may be a little difficult, especially in male-female relationships. But I believe that once we get free from the need to fit in and pretend to be something that we're not, we can spend more time cleaning up the areas, the dark places, right, in our hearts and in our minds that we need to get rid of that cause us to have such harsh responses sometimes. You see what I'm saying? Whatever the thing is that causes the meltdown, whatever the thing is that causes the harsh responses or the frustration, you have more energy to get to the root of that if you're not spending so much time focused on whether your each and every behavior is right or if you said everything just right. All of that is the mask.
Right. Yeah. I understand what you're saying, and thank you so much for that. I'm
You
gonna. Yeah, you actually helped me out a lot with that.
Good, good. I can tell by your user ID that you do have a vision and that you do have, a passion. And I want to encourage you and inspire you. Instead of what you asked me, throw yourself headfirst into that, and the love will automatically ooze over onto the other person if they're supposed to be there.
Okay. That's really nice for you to say. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, my honor. Thank you so much for joining. I look forward to chatting with you again.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. You guys, this is so amazing. I mean, the energy that I'm feeling right now from the people that are in here with me, Carletta, Sheena, Brian, Mary, Kayla. Hey, Kayla, my friend. Hey, Frankie, how are you? Andrew Johnson, Matt, David. Thank you so much for stopping through. Nerd Chat Box, Reed, Lori, Adam, Reggie. I'm so honored. Giselle, Trisha, Liam, Siri. Oh my goodness, Her Majesty, Asa, Melissa, Kiana, the Urban Counter, Robert. I don't even know if all these people are still here, but thank you for stopping through. Kindling the Heart Fire, I think Derek. Oh, Dayo Akinrinade. Oh my gosh. Hi, I'm so honored. Terry, I appreciate you. Rebecca, Frankie, Empress, thank you so much. Sunny, Maine, Dr. Rayo, hey friend, Ishmael, Lisa, Daquan. Oh, everybody from there I shouted out already. You guys, I appreciate you so much. Oh, I got somebody waiting. Thank you so much for joining me. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm doing pretty good, all things considered.
Sicily, as in Italy?
As in, it's a pseudonym, Cicely Marie Cicely Tyson's. Um, the reference of the silly goose, the wandering fool. It's a
Oh,
combination of a lot of things.
I love that. You know, I was listening to a talk recently where somebody was talking about the power in, I think it was Dale. Dale? Is that Dale's name? I think. You know what? I'm going to tell you. Hold on one second. That was, I want to give credit where credit is due. Daryl. It was Daryl. Daryl was talking about the power of renaming yourself. And I really truly believe that creating a pen name, a moniker, a brand name, I think is fire.
Oh, thanks. It's a it's kind of a culmination of culture, history, and the good parts of what I want to express. But what you said about masking is so prevalent, especially in Audi girls, because we're
Mm.
taught to fix ourselves.
I have a
And
fellow artist.
yes, and it's so hard to explain to people, well, you don't seem like it. And I'm like, because I wear a very, very detailed mask.
Now, are you on the, and you guys, if you're not on the spectrum, just bear with me as I tap dance around these titles. I'm not one who cares about fitting into a box, but I am compassionate about people's trauma, so I don't want to just be rude. But there's issues in the autism community with the terminology, and they took Asperger's out of the DSM guide, and many autistic people don't like to acknowledge Asperger's, and saying high functioning, low functioning is considered an insult. And so just bear with me. So I want to ask Cicely, are you ADHD, what they call ADHD, or are you on the high functioning Asperger side of it?
I've been described as high functioning, high
Mm-hmm.
performing.
Mm-hmm.
I speak well. If I
Mm-hmm.
focus really hard on keeping my mask up, I can focus on eye contact and I can have conversations, but I have to try really, really hard.
And by the time you get out of the situation, you are exhausted. You feel like somebody beat the life out of you, like you just barely
Yes.
want to fight with a sumo wrestler.
Yes. Yes. And it's so incredibly hard. And I try not to play the victim and woe is me and, oh, what am I going to do? I kind of just show up.
Yeah, yeah. And so so okay, so back to the what I was just saying about you feel like okay, so sometimes, and would you agree with this, Cicely? Sometimes it can be a conflict or a situation where you're like negotiating and you win. You win the quote unquote win the debate, win the negotiation, get your way, get a raise, promotion, whatever the thing is, and people look at it, even sometimes the person you're talking to will look at it as though it was a positive exchange and you're literally crawling away like if I could just get to some solitude right now I might not die, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's like removing pieces of my skin.
yeah,
But I still go at it because I'm
yeah,
foolish. I'm young, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. And then
You kept the
sometimes,
scars.
because the other person's not offended, they want to continue engaging after they dragged you through the mud just to get one little point across, right?
Right.
Because you were so good at it. You
Yeah.
didn't get mad at them.
And it's so hard because I'm thinking that I'm just emotionally immature
Uh-huh.
and I just can't take criticism. And I've been working on it. And I'm like, no, that was actually kind of rude.
And then you find yourself taking all of the criticism, even some of the stuff that's not justified, right? And fitting yourself.
Yes.
So if you're like me, when I get criticized, even if it's from not a valid source, I always take it and say, okay, what can I learn from that, right? Even if it's not going around,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But
It's like, okay, I need to.
at some point you go, okay, wait a minute. This person keeps saying this thing about me and I actually changed. Why are they still talking about me?
I don't know.
Right? At some point, you have to give yourself credit that the people who are criticizing and judging you didn't even notice that you went out of the way to accommodate them.
And I mean, people pleasing to the max.
Mm-hmm.
I must react this way
Mm-hmm.
in a perfect manner because if I do not, that is my head.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so I literally just had this conversation with my friend, and she's going to be coming on Wisdom and sharing her story. Not this week because I'll be talking to Dr. Lisa this week, but probably next week. We talked about it on TikTok, and it is a very, very graphic and brutal story about how she barely escaped the VA alive, and it is horrendous. And I couldn't believe this happened to my friend, and all this just happened in the past couple of weeks. And she's auditing. Okay, so she, the same thing we're saying, and oftentimes, y'all, if anybody in the audience too, I'm just noticing from my research, and the Aspie brain recognizes patterns. There's a
Yes.
common thread between Aspies and ADHD people. We present similarly, especially if we're talking about women and especially if we're talking about women of color, because oftentimes the diagnoses and the labels that they have for us, they weren't researching a wide test group. So they're
Absolutely not.
right? So they're looking at you and then they're looking at, the good doctor, right, on TV. And sometimes
Yes.
it's that, okay, you don't act like him, but sometimes it's also that we can take it from him better than we can take it from you. He can be that direct. You can't.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I
Because
feel
when
you.
I take off my mask, I'm considered rude, unruly, rebellious, and not listening.
Yeah. And it's worse if you're smart and you actually know what you're talking about. It wouldn't be bad if you
Yeah.
weren't. Yeah, if you didn't know what you were talking about and you weren't a threat, then nobody would have any reason to be so upset about it. But the fact that you make people look bad and you're always coming down people's lanes and sometimes innocently, right? They hired you and they told you to dot all the I's and cross the T's. And when you went over there and did that, you actually made somebody else look bad and now you're the target
Yes.
again.
Off with my head
Yeah.
because I recognized a pattern and I wanted to stop the pattern before it
Yeah.
got too far gone.
Oh yeah. But in doing
And
that, you
then,
made the person who wasn't really trying to do their job look bad.
yes, and it was only because I see sequences and numbers
Mm-hmm.
and what I predicted actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it really made everybody look bad. And I was like, I didn't do it on purpose. I
Mm-hmm.
promise I didn't do it on purpose.
I didn't
But
put
I
no
saw the
witchcraft on y'all. I was just trying
and
to
they
warn
swear
y'all.
I do it.
Mm-hmm.
They swear I do it, but I just
Mm-hmm.
see sequence and
Yep.
numbers and patterns.
Yep.
And when they repeat, it's going to continue to repeat until there's a pattern
That's right.
interruption.
That's right. And
And I've
sometimes
been doing that with my own brain, just interrupting the pattern. You are worthy,
and
no
sometimes you
matter if
being
nobody
right.
else sees it.
Sometimes you be like, I hate being right. Dog. I mean,
I
I knew that
do.
was
And they're
gonna
like, you
happen, but I was hoping it wasn't gonna happen to y'all, but I tried to warn y'all.
yes. Or you should want to be the smartest person in the room. And I'm like, I didn't learn this to be the smartest person in the
Didn't
room.
ask.
I learned this essentially for survival. That was it.
Okay, but now you have to shift. You ready? How old are you?
29.
Oh my goodness, bless your heart. Okay,
Ooh, right?
have you already been told or heard? Okay, so when you were, well, okay, what's your sign?
Aries.
Oh, ooh, baby girl. Woo!
Yeah, everybody says that.
Well, you know what we're about to go into, right? You know we're going into Mars retrograde for excuse
Yes,
me. Mars is going to be in for 8 months and it's going to be retrograde for 4 months. So it's going to be all about the
yes,
Aries energy.
yes. And I'm in my Saturn return year, so everything that wasn't built on solid foundation is
Woo!
crumbling and
Woo!
it's falling to pieces. And I see the patterns and I recognize the pattern. I'm trying to get myself out of it, but
Woo!
nobody seems to know what to do. I just have to watch it fall
I got
and
you.
start over.
I know what to do. And I'm not giving you advice. I'm just going to point you in a direction because you already know. All I'm going to do is confirm what you already know. And when you get kicked off here, I want you to come right back, okay?
Okay.
All I'm about to do is confirm what you already know. It's time. Okay, so anybody on this platform that finds themselves speaking in a way where you are allowing yourself to elevate yourself above others, check yourself. You're wrong. If you're in a teaching position and your job is to teach other people, then clearly you're the expert. Clearly, you're going to know some things sometimes that your students don't know. But if you don't know that your students become the teacher, again, you're not qualified. And I was going to ask Miss Cicely here if anybody has told her yet this concept that how when you're young they tell you got an old soul. I know people have said that to you.
Yes, I've been here before. I've walked this earth. That child know too much. You
Mhm.
done all of that.
And they
My
started
whole
saying
life.
that to you before you even knew anything about any of the stuff we talk about.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So recently, I heard a person who's a scholar in these things say that there's no new souls after the 70s, I believe it was. I'm not
I
sure.
can believe that.
I can't remember if it was the 60s or 70s. I want to say 60s because I'm a 70s baby, and they was telling me I was an old soul from a young age, and I think it's the 60s. So starting at the 60s, all of us who were born after that, like we're like y'all. I'm a Aspie, so my imagination goes off the charts, and I like to talk about stuff in real life because then it sticks in our brain. So I say things like this: I must have been Genghis Khan before.
Hey.
You see, because I'm not like, ooh, I'm so much better than everybody else. No, like I literally can't understand how I was born into this world, understanding certain things, overstanding and understanding certain things, and being so willing to walk this path at such a young age, even though I didn't have any of the privilege of knowing anything about meditation or Buddhism or any of this stuff. I just knew that I knew what I knew. And now that I'm learning all this stuff over the past 10, really 20 years, I'm not learning anything new. And the more that I seek to learn new stuff, I'm still not learning anything new. It's just confirming what I already knew that's allowing me to be able to, rise higher and higher, right?
Yeah.
And so you're older than I am. Like the babies of the 70s were old souls. We've been here before. The babies of the 80s are older than that. The
And I
babies
was a
of the
90s
90s
baby.
are older than that. The babies of the 2000s are older than you are. You feel me?
Yep.
And so, what happens when you are really, really one of them other extra special, enlightened beings that came here? You, you dropped yourself here, you snatched your memory from yourself, and then you was born and you chose a real crazy challenge for yourself, a harder one than you've
Yes.
ever had, right? So, you got here
Yes.
looking like, oh my God, what do I do? Ah, what do I do? What do I do? And then it started
Right.
coming back to you little by little, which made you look crazy to people. Okay.
Yes.
So you're an outsider, black sheep. So now you got to figure out what to do with all of that. And how am I going to? Okay. So now I recognize that I have some things I need to share. I got some giftings and some talents. I understand things. But how do I do that if I'm walking in bitterness and hurt from how everybody damaged me. Well, you don't have that. And there's something about these starseed children, these indigo children, that we, like some kind of naive way, we walked through all of this hardship and the bitterness didn't stick to us.
Yes, because I describe myself as painfully optimistic. I go through painful things in life, but I stay optimistic and curious about the next day. Even if people say I'm not doing enough or moving fast enough, I'm curious about my next day because I made it.
Amen. You can share my term of being stoic. Somebody, I was a philosophy major in undergraduate and I studied the Stoics. Modern day Stoic is not the same thing as what it used to be. And to have somebody call you a Stoic is a high compliment because it means whatever life has thrown at you, not from a, oh, la, 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 but from a, you know what, I'm going to face this. I'm going to own it. I'm going to cry and snot if I need to and punch a wall. And then we're going to pick it up and keep it moving after that because I'm going to help
Yes,
somebody else with that thing.
yes,
So what you have to
I
do
love.
is own that and don't ever forget any of what we've talked about here. Because it is not honorable or kind for a person who's in the eighth grade to keep putting themselves in situations where they're hanging around with fifth graders. Now, if you're teaching a class to some fifth graders, that's different. Those fifth graders are sitting in the desks and they're listening and they're all ears. They're not heckling, they're not arguing, they're not debating, they're not trying to question who you are. If you're not teaching a class to some fifth graders, stop hanging around with fifth graders because all you can expect is more of the same. They're never going to be able to comprehend where you're coming from, and your very existence is a threat. It makes them it makes them conscious of where they haven't arrived to yet.
Mm. And here I am thinking I haven't done anything.
But you did just by being there. Now,
Mm.
it doesn't mean that you didn't help them by your very presence. It doesn't mean that you didn't. You know how they say some people are meant to till the ground, some people are meant to plant the seeds, some people are meant to water the seeds, and some people are meant to harvest the seeds. Maybe you were just the person who tilled the ground, and that's okay. It just means that now that you're conscious of this and you're aware of it, and you're going to remind yourself, you're going to meet somebody and your triggers are going to go off and your red flags are going to go off. And instead of saying, oh, girl, don't be a snob. Who do you think you are? You're not better than anybody else. Yes, all of that is true. However, I vibrate at a higher frequency, and that can be intimidating and even violently threatening to some people. So, it's only me walking in love that I don't set other people up for failure when they see me. They used to teach this in the church. It's a down home Christian principle, but it's even more so, you guys, if you're doing this enlightenment, healing, and all this kind of stuff. People have a tendency to attach themselves to their therapist. They can fall in love with you. They can think you're supposed to be their best friend. They can think that they're equals now all of a sudden because you made them feel better. But you are doing that person a disservice by making them feel like they can walk next to you and carry the same candle. They can't. It's like me getting on the front lines with somebody that's not a trained infantry soldier like I am. I don't have time to watch out for them and make sure that they don't get taken out. So why would I take them up there to the front lines? You're on the front lines every day just by the nature of who you are. So bringing a fifth grader to the front lines with you, it's not really fair to them. They're going to be too stressed out, guilty, fearful, and the chaos is the storm is going to be like, oh my God. And then they're panicking and now they're screaming at you. And you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've done that. I always wanted to take everyone with me.
Yes. And you will. You will. Just not in the initial class, right? Because the first wave of people have to be people who get it, who go through the training and they do the practices, because they're going to be the ones to do triage on the other ones that come running and they don't have the training and they don't know what to do. You're going to have some trained people doing triage on those people. So if you bring the babes too soon, they not going to do nothing but get taken out and quit.
True. It's funny because one of my favorite books to read as a kid, I was about 13, 14, was The Art of War.
Mm.
and I'm rereading it now as an adult as a leisure book. And I'm like, this is where the management principles came from. I may be young, but I was studying this even younger.
Mm-hmm. And it it is one of the greatest tools of your mask. Like if you had to told me that book, and if we said, oh, guess what books I read, I would have either guessed that one or Power, because those
I
are the
got
books.
both.
Aha. Those are the books that teach the ADHD mind how to play the game and win it. But see,
Yes.
but people like us need to learn there is no winning that game. There is no winning that game. You can never win that game. And playing that game for you means certain stress and dis-ease and frustration and depression, because you're not meant to play that game. You're not
That's comforting.
you're not meant to play that game. You play a different game. And you don't even have to play that game, because all you have to do is continue to walk, be yourself, focus on your practices, do the work and everything that you're focusing on. And Albert Einstein and Tesla and all of the geniuses of our time throughout history all did what we're saying right now. They tapped into the Akashic record. They tapped into the galactic record. They learned how to just be. They learned how to let their spirit guides lead them, and the rest will come.
Oh, yeah. I really appreciate this.
My absolute pleasure and honor. It's so nice to meet you, Cicely. I'm so glad that we got to talk, and I am following you. We are connected, and I'd love to have you come back on. Just like I told Terry, you're interesting, and I would love to hear more about your journey and have you just share for an hour. So if you would like to do that, shoot me a text and let me know what day is best for you, so that I can put you on my schedule, because I would love to talk to you more and just get to know you and find out more about you. You have a serious ministry to share. Just your attitude and your outlook. It can be inspiring for a lot of people who they're 29 and they haven't even learned what you've learned yet. There's people who are 30 and who are 40 who haven't, they're still being told that to talk about such things is against God or whatever. So it's a lot of people out here sick and depressed and walking in confusion and misery, and their relationships are toxic and they're unhappy, and it's because they're double-minded. It's because they know, right? They've been shown, they understand, but they still have influences over them that are telling them that if you don't dot all these I's and cross all these T's and put this money in this plate and come here these days of the week and say all these words, then you don't count and you're not valuable and you don't get to have eternal life like the rest of us. And every time I have a friend who's participating in those kind of talks, or every time I try to be open-minded, because I am an ordained minister and I did grow up in the church, and I do have a lot of friends that are ministers across various different denominations. And every time I try to be open-minded and just, let me just stop by and support and see what they're talking about, it doesn't take long for them to always get around to saying something that makes me go, that's why your congregation is so miserable right now. That's why the people that I know that are part of your congregation are depressed and sick, because you really got them feeling like they're not going to be okay unless they come back here every single week and do exactly what you say do and pay you. Did y'all know that there's a proverb that says, don't buy or sell truth? And yet that's what we do every week in the church. We buy and sell truth every week. So much so that the experiences that I've had, and long before I started even being open to any of this stuff, I stopped fooling with the church, okay, as an ordained minister, because I can't be a part of it and I can't condone it. And I cannot condone you treating somebody like you're their answer and you're their solution, right? But you're really not taking time to invest in them or to listen or to hear or actually help them solve the issue. Like, seriously, y'all, this was a TikTok video, but if you have been ministering over a group of people for years, and you stand up in the pulpit on Sunday and complain about how you didn't get a watch for your anniversary because your congregation is broke and this and that and the other. Like, at some point, you guys, and I'm not just talking about that person, I'm not just talking about the church, I'm talking about all of us. We need to start taking accountability, right? So if I'm an influencer or whatever type of person that I have an audience, like, at some point I have to reflect on the people in my audience and the impact that I'm having on people. Like, what fruit am I bearing? And what fruit that, like, I have my Living Sugar Free Sweethearts, right? That's my audience of people who subscribe and participate and buy my books and wear my t-shirts and whatever. And it's very loose. Like, you don't buy a $6,000 coaching program to be a Living Sugar Free Sweetheart. You just a client if you want to do that, right? But Living Sugar Free Sweethearts are just people who follow me on social media and subscribe and hit like and always comment. Why? Because that's an additional thing I can provide as my reasonable service, because I'm not buying and selling truth. If I charge you money for my time and my energy to put my brain and my energy into your problem and help you solve something and help you build something, that's not me buying and selling truth, you see. I hope that I have explained this without stepping on too many toes, but to be honest with you, I can't care. Like, if I've stepped on your toes, I dare say that you have enough experience in this world to know that what I'm saying is true. You're just still in denial, and I have upset your comfortability and challenged the status quo, and you've been told that you're not allowed to consider such things as what I'm talking about. So it's easier just to call people heathens and whatever than to really, really study to show thyself approved and find out if this is really, really what God wants you to be doing. Whatever your version of that is, whatever you call God, whatever you see when you say God and then close your eyes, whatever. It don't matter to me. It is completely irrelevant as to what I'm saying, as to what your version, what you call, what you deem as God, what words you choose to use. It's irrelevant. And it's also irrelevant if you choose to not claim a God. This good word is irregardless of whatever denomination or religion or none or philosophy. Because that's what happens when you open-mindedly seek truth and knowledge. You seek big T truth and you find it. But if we're just seeking truth just for the sake of telling other people that they're wrong and what they should and shouldn't be doing and lording it over people and just to take people's money and just for our image and all that kind of stuff, that's not big T truth. That's little T truth, which is fine. Do you. Like, every coaching program does not need to be perfect. Every leadership development, every marketing program, like, you're not a con artist just because you're not the smartest tool in the shed. And what I would hope is that each and every person just do the work. You'll get better. Take the classes. Just because you're a spiritual coach or a light worker or you do Reiki or tarot or whatever doesn't mean that you can't take Dr. Lisa Brewer's class. Why? Because everybody needs mentors. And she's 54 years old. And I have yet to really find people who got it going on like she does. And so if you do this kind of thing, why wouldn't you want to learn from her? Why wouldn't you want to? And y'all, I'm saying this, I'm not talking to anybody here. I'm talking about a specific person who got in their feelings because I'm hosting this class with Dr. Brewer instead of asking this person to host these types of classes. But listen, this is your answer. Like, if you know me, then you already know the answer. If I met you, you know, you were my waitress or you were my cell phone service person, or you were, you know, the doctor at the hospital, why would I go, oh, hey, come over here and teach a light worker class to my audience? If you know anything about me, you know I wouldn't do that. I'm never going to have somebody who's unqualified and unproven and undisciplined stand up in front of my audience and put them in position and endorse it. because I'm responsible for that. And if I don't know you from Adam, then I don't know whether you're any of those things or not. So I wouldn't. Back in the day when I was in corporate America, you couldn't even get a job recommendation off of me if I didn't already know that you were going to actually show up to work, be a good employee, and not steal stuff. Because that's my reputation. And I don't care how good of friends we are. I have literally told people, no, I'm not giving you a job recommendation to come work with me at the bank because you don't show up for work on time. And they would be looking at me like, Andréa, why did you send this person? Because see, when you're a bank manager, you're hiring people for the other bank managers. So I'm hiring my best friend to come work at your bank branch, even though I know my best friend ain't gonna show up for work on time. No, I would never. And some people really think that friendship is over that. Like, but if you're on your job and people are miserable and treat you bad, or you have a hostile work environment, or you had any type of conflict with your job or your company or your boss, then you can understand what it's like to be on the other side of that equation. And then why would you ever take a friend and send them to go work at somebody's company when you already know your friend ain't gonna do right? This is the level we have to get to. Because if not, we're going to continue to allow people who come off as friends, who pretend to be friends, who say they want to be friends, to snatch the rug out from under us. And the rugs are all snatchable. I don't care how long you've been on this journey. I don't care how many hours you meditate. I don't care. Just like most people will talk about their spiritual journey as though they ended up here because of how the rug got snatched out from under them. But if you know, like I know, then you know that rugs get snatched out at each phase, because some of us, we're so, right? We're operating integrity, and we don't want to take advantage of people, and we don't want to do people wrong. So they hired me for the job, and even though I'm miserable, I'm not going to quit because I don't want to leave them high and dry. Like, there's a lot of us in this type of industry and this type of genre doing what we're talking about in my audience who function like that. You've stayed in relationships longer than you were supposed to. You stayed on jobs longer than you knew you were supposed to be there. You stayed in whole cities and states longer than you were comfortable. You stayed with family members longer because you put yourself into that box and told yourself, well, who am I? I'm not better than other people. And it's only because of the abuse and the trauma of what people have said to you. Because thanks for tuning in to Andréa in the Morning. This is Andréa Raquel, the social entrepreneur and sugar-free coach. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in and following. I hope you've liked our page on Facebook. That's facebook.com/sugar-free coach, as well as on Twitter. You can catch me on Twitter at sugar-free coach. I will follow back and reciprocate. I always do.